All right, everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Lasting Learning Podcast. Today's episode is going to be a good one, probably going to be a deep one. It's definitely going to be a powerful one where we're going to be walking away with some lasting lessons, some things that are going to stick with us, some stories that are going to resonate, probably going to pull on your heartstrings, make you think, make you reflect, and hopefully make you grow. I've got a guest on today who has a story that is absolutely captivating, heartbreaking, but so real. She's a woman who is living her best life now. She is moving forward and she's showing us how to all do it. So today, Kenra is going to be sharing her story with us. Kenry, thank you so much for being here with us today.
Oh, thank you for having me. It's good to be here and good to actually get this out because I know it's something that a lot of people that can really take to heart and allow it to really change them if we let it.
Yeah, absolutely. Just for listeners that are picking up on it already, I've got this weird accent that's a blend of Midwest Michigan and deep South Florida. And now you've taken that accent to a whole nother level, representing
Yeah.
Lexington, Kentucky in a very
Yeah.
real way. So
Yes.
you are hanging out in Big Blue Country.
Yes.
What else do people need to know about you before we jump in and start unpacking things?
Um, I live in Kentucky. I have 4 kids. They're stair steps, 11, 10, 9, and 8 now. I am a widow. He died whenever I was 29. I grew up in dysfunction, 2 alcoholic parents. Just the traditional, I think that's pretty common around Kentucky. A lot of us, it's dysfunctional. But really, I don't even know. I don't even know.
Well, that's a lot right there. And as I'm listening, I'm a father of 4 kids as well.
Yeah, it's fun. It's
Oh,
fun.
yeah, sure, that's one way. And it kind of goes hand in hand with that whole dysfunction and
Yeah,
a
like,
lot of drinking and all of those
well,
sorts of things,
mhm,
right?
and I
But
mean, I had it all figured out. I thought, I graduated 13 years, perfect attendance. I went to school, got my bachelor's. But I moved to Michigan. I fell in love with my husband, and I moved to Michigan. And I was one that escaped into relationships. That's just what I done. That's what I've done since I was in 3rd grade. Never been single. Never. So I moved to Michigan, and that's where I had my 3 kids. Like, I'm talking survival mode. I don't remember my 3rd child's birth. Like, and it's heartbreaking as it like I say that it's not, but like I was breastfeeding or pregnant for 6 years straight. Like, it was in Michigan, away from everyone. And you don't even realize that you don't even realize that that's not normal. You just, and I mean, this is a person that had self-harmed back in high school. Like, I mean, I have so much like this crazy stuff to then get to, him passing, and which we'll get into that more.
oh, yeah. Let's take that journey if that's okay. So first of all, Michigan. I've got some deep Michigan roots here. So what part of Michigan were you in?
I was in Lapeer.
Lapeer. Okay, just down the road from
Like
me.
in my city,
Yeah, fair
North
enough.
Branch.
There you go. Yeah, so people that aren't watching this on video, that are listening to it, put your hand up. That's Michigan. That's the map of Michigan.
Yeah.
We're kind of pointing towards the middle of the state area. So you're smack dab in the middle of Michigan, moving
Yep.
from Kentucky, where you spent most of your life.
Yeah, my entire life was in the small town. And I mean, I graduated from Eastern, which is a school, and I was a 5-year regional scholarship. Like, I thought I had it all figured out.
Sure.
Like, you go to school, you get a job, and then I got pregnant with my 3rd kid, and it was like, I
And in the
can't.
whirlwind. In the whirlwind. But you started your story by even taking us back prior to this move to Michigan, prior to having 3rd kids, prior to having any kids. You made the statement, kind of in passing, that you were always in a relationship as far back as 3rd grade. And you said that you would hide in these relationships. So let's let's act like you're laying on a leather couch here somewhere, and we're just talking, just the two of us here. So going back to third grade, 8-year-old little Kenra enjoying life, coming home and watching cartoons in the afternoon. But you got a relationship already. Always have a relationship on the side.
Yeah.
Were
Yeah,
you
because
looking for belonging, looking for
yes,
somebody to say you're good enough? Were you
it
what
was
was going
worth.
on?
It was always about needing someone to be there to, so I wasn't so alone. I was
Mm.
an only child.
Only child with two parents that you said were dysfunctional.
Yeah. My but they was there. My mom worked third shift. My dad raised me. He was the man who was, that was who meant everything to me. He's the one that got me up. He's the one that, but the problem was that nobody was there to honor my feelings. Nobody cared about, how I was feeling. That wasn't something, that alcoholics, they're too busy running from there. So like as a child of an alcoholic, I never had room to feel. That just wasn't something. So then in a relationship, somebody was finally there to listen. Somebody was finally there to be there for me and to actually care about how I was feeling, even though it was just in third grade. And that turns my stomach because I have my babies,
Mm-hmm.
Lord, but I couldn't imagine them needing to seek out to someone. So I'm just glad the transformation happened. But yeah, I was definitely seeking the approval, the validation, just that comfort of someone. And I remember my mom even told me that whenever I was dating someone in 8th grade, she said, no, Kendra, I just remember you saying they made you feel safe.
Mm.
And I was like, yep, that's what I've been searching for my entire life, was that safety, just to be able to feel safe enough to feel. And
Okay, so we're going here. Safe enough to feel. So I try my best not to put my own stuff out there. I want this to be about you, but I'm going to put some of my stuff out there. Maybe you can help heal me a little bit. So as we're talking, see, I've got a hat on. I always wear a hat, and this hat is almost like my mask. It hides me from the world. It allows me to cover up this area of weakness. And I feel like a lot of us wear hats throughout our lives, where we're constantly trying to cover up areas of our life and put on some sort of external display that we
mm-hmm.
think others expect from
Yeah.
us.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So going back to being 8 years old and truly throughout your entire life, you're saying that people were in essence like your hat. They were that thing
Mm-hmm.
that would help cover up this thing
Mm-hmm.
inside of you that maybe back then you didn't even know existed. You didn't know that you craved safety. You
Oh,
didn't know that you craved commitment and companionship and all of
no, you don't know
those
none of
things.
that. You just know you feel alone and you feel like that's just it's you stuck in this pain. Something's wrong with you and you need someone else to fill this voids. Now I realize that, that was my parents that I needed, that I just needed that connection. I needed to feel belonged and worthy. But that's definitely that thing that I think that a lot of us get into. We have something that is covering up or something to put on this facade,
Facade. Yeah, I
facade
gotcha.
and portray it to the world. And
Yeah.
it's crazy now looking back about how many people, and I try to be that safe place that people can be like, y'all can let that down. It's cool. We're, it's just crazy.
Yeah, absolutely. So elementary school, middle school, high school, you're clinging to relationships,
Yeah.
clinging to other people to make you feel
Mm-hmm.
important and worthy
Mm-hmm.
and all of those things. Then you
Mm-hmm.
end up with multiple kids and
Mm-hmm.
find your way moving to Michigan,
Yeah.
which
And
I can only assume you would have moved anywhere to be with a father of your kids, like you
yeah.
to have this safety and security. You would have gone
Yeah.
anywhere.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, and it sucks because I was 3 semesters from my RN. I was on a 5-year regional scholarship, and I dropped all of that. I mean, I still graduated with a bachelor's, but it wasn't what I wanted. It was more just because that, he loved me and he was going to fill this void, and it was just toxic. It was. I mean, but we loved each other the best way we knew how. We did, but we wasn't really taught what love really was. But yeah, I was in a relationship for 9 months, then 7 years, and then 10 years. So luckily, I was in like, well, I don't know, luckily, I don't guess it really mattered, but it was long-term relationships. Sure. But I really abandoned myself the entire time because I was loving out of fear. I was doing whatever I needed to do to ensure that, I was loved. But that come with a lot of expectations, because then, whenever I was given, I would expect it in return. But like whenever two people are wounded, they can't fill each other's voids. It's just bouncing. It's just, it's a mess.
I'm going to ask a question that I hope I can articulate the right way. So if it doesn't make sense, just ask, or just ask me to try to clarify it a different way, or we can move on. Was it more important for you to feel loved than to feel love? Like, I don't know if that makes sense. Like, when you felt your partners loving you, was that more important than you actually feeling love yourself?
Yeah, which I guess that's where the loved come from at that time. I remember thinking that there's a big difference between someone loving me and me feeling loved. Like, I know my parents loved me. I know they did. But did I ever feel it? No. I know that Justin loved me with everything he was, but did I feel loved? No. And I think that I held a lot of resentment for my parents, to Justin, to anyone. But, later in my healing journey, I realized that it's because no one can make me feel something. That has to come from me. And that's that huge transformation that was able to happen, that it's not about what somebody can feel. So I had so much resentment, like, oh, well, they didn't do this for me, and they, like, but I was also constantly abandoning my needs to do for them. Instead, if I was doing for myself, I wouldn't be expecting them to love me, picking up that extra slack that I wasn't given.
Wow. Okay. And then, so you're living your life on this quest, really an internal quest that you don't even recognize you're on right now.
No.
To feel accepted, to feel safe, to feel loved, to feel all these things, but yet you don't know how to feel things. And then we fast forward to the point where you're 29 years old. Do you mind walking us through what happened at 29 to change the trajectory of your life?
At 29, my husband, he had got up. He was, I was actually supposed to go with him because we only had one vehicle. And I was supposed to go with him to take the kids, or because the kids had dentist appointments, but he was already running behind, and the roads was wet. And I was like, I don't want you, I didn't want him to just leave. And I was like, no, just go on. I laid out his clothes, or packed his lunch, and had his clothes, like what I did every, and I'd started the van. I'd come outside, and I told him, to be careful, the roads is wet. And then usually he should have been to work by the time that I took the kids to the bus stop. But it was weird because he hadn't texted, and it was just strange. It had only happened one other time that he didn't let me know he was at work. And I had messaged his buddy at work and said, is Justin there? And he was like, yeah, he had left his phone, whatever. So, but this time his buddy said no. And like my stomach dropped. I was sick. So the kids, at this time, the kids are already on the bus. I look at my phone, and they say like 2 miles from the house, or it might be more than that, but I could see the red mark on it indicating that.
Yeah.
It was telling me there was a crash. So I called dispatch, and I asked them, was there a wreck on the road? And they said there was. And they asked me what he was driving, and I told them, and I could tell by the her voice that something was wrong. But like, of course, she didn't want to, that. But she had told me that she didn't say that it was him or nothing or anything was wrong. Well, but she said she would call the troopers on the scene and see if I could get up there. So I run to my mom's, which my mom and her husband lived down the road, and for him to take me to the scene. And but I was already so sick. Whenever I went in there to my mom's and I was like, Mom, he's dead. He's dead. And my mom was like, Kenra, no, he's too mean to be dead. And I'm like, no, he's not. He's gone. But she, she would be like, no, everything's fine. Smile. Everything's okay. But I knew, everything in me knew. And it was about, I don't know, less than 5 minutes later, the cops pull up and they get out, and all I did was scream no, because I mean, this was like my life, as toxic as it was, as dysfunctional as it was, this was everything to me. Like, I didn't know who I was anymore, because I hadn't really done anything with my life in the last like in the last 10 years. Like, because I was so, like, it was crazy. So like the devastation and stuff that followed, and then to bring the worst part now that even turns my stomach thinking is because you bring the kids home, and then the school brings them home. And Austin, he had told me, he said, Mom, I thought maybe somebody had cancer. He knew, he could tell something was wrong. Why was the bus or the principals and all them people bringing the kids home from school? He knew something was up. And anyway, they come in, and then I had to tell them, of course, that their dad wasn't coming home. And that's the part that really, because like at the time I'm so stuck in my own, like, of course, like I don't feel bad about it now, but it's just because that's how afraid and things that the kids must have been, like how afraid I was, much less them. They was already losing, like they already just lost him, and then it was just overwhelming. I mean, it still is.
Yeah, absolutely. I want to unpack the conversation with the kids, and how that plays out, because you're making reference to not putting yourself first. You're making reference to not being able to experience pain and feelings at all. And as a mom with kids, that's also something that you stand in that gap for them, and you try to protect them, and you're trying to be that person for them. But you said something early on that I don't know if the listeners heard and picked up on, and I want to pick up on it if it's okay. You've made reference a couple times to how toxic things were. And I'm just going to be blunt, right? There are some people that try to project, and they try to tell people how they're supposed to feel. And there are people listening right now that are probably projecting some of that. You're supposed to feel this way. How dare you say that now? Why can't you just paint everything with rose-colored glasses? And why can't you just be that grieving widow and act like everything was perfect and fine and good, and just be sad? When you throw words out like it was toxic, what is the need to say that truth? What is the purpose behind that in your healing journey? Why is it important for you to acknowledge that things were not perfect back before Justin left?
Because that I want people, like, it was very, we was two that was very stuck in our own pain. We loved each other out of fear. We expected the other one to fix it. I fixed his and he fixed mine. And why I want it to be so, it's because that I want people to realize that, like, it's not out there. It's nothing out there. Is healing is all about an inside job. So whenever I lost him, that meant I lost everything. Like, I had all of those, rocks in that one basket, or the eggs in the basket, or whatever, and they say, that was because at this point I had avoided my needs, the kids' needs. Like, I was so disconnected from my feelings and the kids. I was still trying to fix everything. I was still trying to cover up everything. Like, if someone was no one talked about their feelings, you just fix them. Like, and that's what I was doing. Like, Justin he had done 4 years in the Marines. He'd done 2 9-month tours in Iraq. He had so much pain and so much issues. He had drug problems before kids. And then he got off that. He quit smoking. He'd done all the stuff that he needed to do besides do the inner work, because none of the pain was really addressed. And then after he lost his mom, which was shortly before our fourth child was born, we moved back to Kentucky at this time because she was dying. She died young. It was a mess. After he lost her, things really changed. And that's how I know, like grief, if it's left unchecked, it will completely transform you. And that's whenever it was more about controlling me, more about, who I talked to, where I was. It was just a mess. And I hate, to paint that, I know like he's gone, like, but he was a great man. Like, I love him more now than I ever did, because now I can see the whole picture. He wasn't this one that wanted to just hurt me. He never wanted to, keep me stuck, or he was just acting out of his own fear. And I realize, all of that now. Yeah. And I realized that my biggest thing that I could have done at the time was left, but neither one of us would have been strong enough to do that. And I'm saying left is a point for him to work on his own issues, but instead of me leaving, I just kept doing whatever he wanted me to do. If that meant me not going to the doctor, or me not going to the store alone. I mean, it was very very controlling. And then and I hate to paint, then losing him, because it was nothing. He was a great dad. He had done so much. He was just stuck in that pain. And neither one of us would have been able to help get the other one out if what didn't happen happened. And it sucks. It killed, but there is good that come out of it, because our kids, they would have grew up in that dysfunction. They would have grew up disconnected from their feelings, acting out, and everybody be like, I don't know what's going on. And it's like, yeah, they was just acting out what they was taught from me and him.
I want to try to provide more context for this too. Okay. Because what's going through my mind right now, first of all, just the pain. And I can imagine as you're going through this healing process that you're still on. I think you'll probably always be on it, as you're not just healing from that day, but truly from childhood, like your entire life, you're trying to uncover and unmask and all of these things. I feel like there's almost this conflict. And again, correct me if I'm wrong, because this is going to come across harsh and blunt. But in a way, there might be this conflict in your own head that says, maybe things are better now. Maybe I'm better off now, but I wish that didn't happen. I wish I could have gotten to this place a different way.
Yes.
But now that I'm here,
I'm thankful.
Yeah. And I think that's so hard for people to hold on to and to understand, because I don't think in any way, shape, or form are you saying that you would have wished for this to happen.
No, absolutely not.
But you are turning
what I had to turn
into something that you probably wouldn't have been able to had this not happened.
Yeah. And I tried to run from it, just like I'd run from all my other pain. So it wasn't like this happened, and then, even a year later, I was like, okay, now I can finally get my life together. Everything's great. Absolutely not. I handled his death the way that I'd handled most other pain. I tried to put on the brave face, tried to cover it up. And then he had life insurance, which was nice, but the only thing that provided was then a sense of more ability to run whenever because I'm saying I had no one. Like, my father paid for his funeral but didn't show. My mother showed up drunk, tore up about what she was going to wear. Like, that was the support system that I had, because mind you, I didn't have no one in the years prior. I had done that myself. I had pushed people away. I can't blame other people. I was fine. And then you realize, hey, I'm not fine. And not only am I not fine, I am screwing up my kids too, guys.
Well, yeah, let's talk about that piece, the kids, right? Because I can imagine, so they come home from school, you share the news with them, and were your kids in this place, and they're still really young, and they were younger then, right? Where they felt comfortable and safe expressing feelings at that time, or had you
No.
kind of suppressed that from them too?
My two oldest, they are the ones that, really, I've had to work a lot with to unteach, unlearn these behaviors that I had told them before. I want to touch on this, and I will, because it was about probably a year ago. Austin, we was downstairs, he was going to bed, and I said, baby, you just have to feel these feelings. I know they're
Austin's one of
rough.
your kids, correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
And one that's been previously diagnosed with ADHD that is off medicine after this whole, but anyway, he had said, Mom, no, he's like, sometimes I just want to cry, but then I feel like that there's this thing in my throat that stops it. And I was like, baby, that was mommy, because mommy at one point told you that wasn't supposed to happen. I made you feel like that we wasn't supposed to cry. And a lot of us parents, we don't even realize like that we're doing that. Like, I didn't realize that I was just fixing his feelings. Like, so like after the death and all this, you want to try to really fix them, give them everything that they want, like God, because they have lost so much, and you want to feel this. And I realize now, the only thing that they needed was me to be there, because they was feeling this pain, but they didn't know it. That, like they know it, but then they don't know what to do with it. And so during this time, I was really trying to cover up their pain just the same way as I was mine. Like, oh, buying something new, or food, or anything that you can, just to feel, just to feel better. And I realize now, like, that didn't help. But so like it was a year, probably whenever my healing more started, was probably like a year after, is whenever I started realizing that my kids, how bad, like whenever I looked at them, I could see the pain. And I knew the pain because it was so familiar, because as a child, I was alone, and that's what I was doing to them. I mean, they had already lost their father, and now I was there. I was physically always present, but mentally and emotionally, I was definitely checked out. And it took a lot to realize, okay, like, this isn't just your healing. This isn't just your pain anymore. It's their pain. And I think that it was that love that I have to fix what I've broke. And it was a whole fix in a different sense, because I think a lot of us parents, we want to fix our kids. That's what but this, I knew, was an inside job. I didn't need to fix them. I just needed to become a safe place for them to come to feel. And that's where my journey began.
Wow. You said that your healing journey began about a year later, when you could see it in your kids' eyes, and you recognized, even at that point though, you recognized as a mom that you needed to change and do things differently.
Yeah, it was me.
Your kids, right? At what point did you start to realize? So you start this journey, and the journey, I'm assuming, deals with a lot of reflection, probably some conversations,
a lot of journaling, so many. I mean, stacks and stacks of journals, like just sorting it all out, just getting it all out. But yeah, it was a lot. But I missed your question right there.
No, you're okay. No, it's totally fine. So you're going through all of this stuff and bringing up the mess, and as you start to do this, and I'm reflecting on my own journey, there was this temptation for myself when I started to do something very similar, to then start looking at myself in the mirror and be like, oh my gosh, I am broken. Before I hid it all, and I didn't want the world to see any parts of the brokenness. And then you start to convince yourself that everybody's just this little robot that just goes through the motions. But then when you start to do this introspection, you start to realize, oh my gosh, I have negatively impacted so many other people because of how flawed I am. Until you start to recognize that everybody's flawed, but you don't get to that point until much later in the journey, right?
Yeah, you start to really, and it's crazy, because at this time, you're probably, you're still already thinking that you're flawed. You already are so much self-criticism, so much blaming yourself all the time. So you really come to this point, like, really, it really is me. But there's so much power in that, because you're like, okay, if it's me, then I can fix me. Like, we have spent so much time trying to say it's everyone else. They're doing all this that we have no control over. But once I really owned it and said, okay, if this is an inside job, this is something then surely I can work through this. And that's where it started. But like the grief with my kids, I could really tell, Austin, he couldn't throw things away. Like in his pockets, his pockets would be full. And he, whenever I would talk to him about it, because my old self, I would have been like, Austin, why is all this stuff in your pockets? I would have more made him feel shame as opposed to having that conversation. It would have been an inconvenience for me. So then I'm going to fuss at him, which we all do often to our kid, like we're having to clean up their mess and now we're fussing at them about it rather than having this honest conversation. Like, dude, what's going on here? But whenever I ask him, and he said, whenever I go to throw something away, I just see faces on it. So I knew that, this was so much deeper. So then once you start seeing the stuff in their pockets, you don't fuss anymore. It's just, hurts. But now his pockets are usually empty. He might have one or two like cool things, but there's no longer so much trash. There's no longer. So it's really amazing because, all of this, you don't really know what to do. You don't know how do you handle this? And like, I should have reached out. I should have had them in grief counseling. I should have done a lot. But at this time, you don't ask for help. In my mind, that's where you was, that it's all on you. No one's ever helped. So why should I even feel like that other people are going to? So it's all on me, like I've always, which ended up okay. But with your kids, it's like you really want to just take all this away. And I didn't know like what to do, but I knew that just him having that safe place, him being able to talk to me now, like instead of him just holding it all in. But my oldest, his reaction to his dad's death was so much like me. I could see it, because Austin would play music like that Daddy Please Don't Go song. And Brayden would be tore up. He would be mad. He's like, stop. And I was like, see, that's me. Like, that's little me. Like he was my oldest and my last to really grieve, because it really took a lot to break through those. I mean, and it was just like 2 months ago. He was really starting to, I guess, really go through a lot of this stuff, because he starts coming to me and being like, Mom, well, what's going to happen if you die? He's like, like he wanted, there's so many of these like questions that, I have to like work through. And I'm just thankful to be able to, do that now, as opposed to before. I would have been so just still trying to cover it up. Like if they was to bring pain, and we don't think that we would do that. Like, but whenever you're in the moment, and whenever that's triggering your own sadness and and you're like, oh no, you can't touch that. It's so easy just to cover it up and try to get our kids to, and it's just, it breaks my heart how kids, they will look out for you, they will make sure, like they didn't want to bother me. Austin, he had told me at one time that he would rather, could he sacrifice his life to bring Daddy back for me. And like, I mean, it's crazy, because like he just wanted me to be okay. So it's just thankful that now that they don't have to worry about mommy. Like mommy's okay. Like, they can worry about them finally and process their own feelings instead of worrying about me. And it's just nice to finally be able to be that in that space.
Well, I appreciate you sharing that perspective, because seeing and understanding the kids in all of this, it's an important part of your own continued journey. They're a part of your story. And I'm wondering, as you continue this healing journey, how do you balance not becoming that safe place for them while also being mom for them, right? Because you mentioned how throughout the course of your life you were always looking for safety. You're looking for that security. You were looking for that person to take away all the feelings
Mm-hmm.
and all the pain. How do you manage and put yourself in a position where now to, because it's not like you don't just snap your fingers and that's all gone. That's still a part of who you are and part of your identity. How do you make sure that that doesn't become what you do with your kids, that you don't use your kids like every other relationship you've been a part in, where
Oh
you
yeah.
want them to depend on you, so you
Mm-hmm.
need them to depend on you, you need them to need mom,
Yeah.
but also recognize that they do need mom, and it's
Mm-hmm.
okay for them to need mom.
Yeah, and it's hard because it makes you feel good that, oh well, they need, but my job now, I see, is not for my kids. you know I want them not to need me. Like, I want, I know that I'm making little humans, and that means me supporting them through all these big feelings. It's never, I'm very conscious about, like, just fixing their feelings. If they want something, then we wait till this feeling goes down and we talk about it, and then they get it. It's not like just, oh, because often they will try to come home and something will be difficult and they will check out, which is what my two oldest has been diagnosed with ADHD. They're both off medication because that I realized that if once that they're stop running from these feelings and start having them, they're no longer just stuck in this go, go, go. But so I'm really cautious about, like, what I let them like do to avoid feelings. Like, we went to the doctor, and Brayden was like, no, my mom just wants to talk about feelings all the time. So, like, it, and I'm like, Brayden, you'll thank me one day, like, that you're not, like, and it's crazy because then he feels, or, there's a girl at school that was being picked on, and Brayden was like, it felt good because I told her that it's more about them than it is you. He was like, because the more I listen to you, the more that I realize, how I can help others. And I'm like, like, it's just nice to be able, him to start to see this, that it's not so much just about mommy's just trying to hurt your feelings. And I know a lot of parents, whenever they see their kids, their feelings hurt, we want to fix it. And that used to be me. But now if I see a feeling happening, I'm more about, let's get to the bottom of it. Let's fit, like, I will sit here with you all day if you need me, but I'm not here just to fix or cover up, or, like, we will understand it together. And a lot of, I think a lot of times I want them to understand at a level that they're really not. So I have to more put myself in their shoes. And I realize that now in my own healing, and how disconnected, I guess, before I was from their feelings and being able just to support them. I was just a mess, and now I've ran it on, and now I'm lost. So
No. This is all so good. You haven't at all. I am curious though about what's to come for you, right? Because you've got this vision for your kids. You want them to be able to feel, you want them to be able to live and experience the fullness of life. What do you foresee for your future? Do you live in this place where you're at peace now? Do you live in
oh
fear?
yeah.
Do you
Oh no.
live? No? Okay.
No, it's crazy, because to go from this place of fear of myself, like, oh gosh, like, if someone would knock on my door, everyone would freeze. That was just something that you done, like, it's crazy to think about. Okay, so at one point, probably 2 years ago, I was in my shower with clothes on while somebody was knocking on my door, because I was worried about answering, like, because that I was hiding in the shower. And it's crazy to think that, like, I was just at a spot that I couldn't take anymore. Like, I was so overwhelmed with life, with everything. And to get to this point where I am now, I mean, this was just a year and a half ago. So, like, to get to here is like, it's just amazing that, like, once I stopped, running from everything. And that's what I'd done my whole life, was run from
So
all those feelings, covered them up.
What are you running towards now?
More, just being in a more state of that peace, that love, that and I guess it's more helping others now get to that point, because it's so amazing to watch whenever people can really have these aha moments, and really, because that I know, like, for me, I went through so many of them, and it was all like alone, or, it was through reading, or it was through my own journaling. And to be able to people to really be able to understand, like, how much that our beliefs and our all of this is all from our own conditioning. It's like we're so innocent, and like we forget that we was once this little baby that, was in this world that was so full of love and so full. And then, stuff happens, and then we want to go through this whole stage of, oh, well, it's all their parents' fault. But yeah, but then you would have to go back to they was a baby, and it was all, it just go, it's just really, I don't know, just great to be able to see all of this. But then it's hard for me to be at a point to articulate it to, like, really, other people, like, that's where I'm at right now, is just how best to help, like, so that's why I'm here.
Well, I appreciate you sharing your voice and your wisdom and your story with so many people. I know it puts you in this vulnerable place that can be scary, but I appreciate it. I'm growing as a result of this. In just a minute, I'm going to be asking for you to share your mic drop moment, that moment that you want people to resonate on. But I also want to highlight you and honor you, or call out something that I see in you, that you're a fixer, you're a healer. You're a person that you continue to put other people first, which I know in today's society, it's not in vogue to talk about putting other people first, and you're supposed to put on your own mask first and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But in you, I see this person that you almost refuse to do that. And I want to say that I see that as a positive in where you are right now, right? You talked about early on in life, you depended on other people to make you feel safe. But I think that there was also this part of you that, with that, you were helping your parents not have to worry about you as a burden, because you had other people that could take care of you. As you got married and you had kids, your husband had struggles that he was overcoming, and you were willing to stand beside him and work through those things. You would move across the country for him. Tragedy strikes, you're there for your kids. You continue to talk about healing your kids. And even now, in this moment, when a lot of people would just be curled up in a shell, they would be hiding from the world or just trying to figure out themselves, you're on this podcast sharing your story to try to heal other people, right? I think that is a part of your own healing journey, is that you're going to continue to try to help people, but you're going to help people by being completely genuine and real and honest. You don't have the mask on. You're not wearing the hat anymore. You're saying, this is me. And I want my story, my authentic truth, to help other people. I'm not going to tell you what I think you need. I'm going to give you what is real. And I appreciate that so much. It just adds this level of credibility to whatever we're going through, whatever people are feeling and experiencing, to know that other people are going through it and they're coming out the other side, and they're growing and they're getting better, and they don't have the attitude of, it's just who I am. It's, I want to become who I want to be.
I've heard that so many times. It's just, that's just how I am. It's like, no, that's how who you had to become in order to survive. But, like, dropping all of that is really where it's at. But it's hard. It's very difficult to drop all of that. And I mean, I went from, like, being on medication. I was on a antidepressant, an anti-anxiety, and a mood stabilizer shortly after he died. I got on all of those. But I realized that those was just number, I was just numbing things. So, like, but they also got me through to a point where I was able to more start taking, start allowing myself to feel. So, like, but sugar was also another thing that I was using to, I was eating a cake a night 2 years ago. Like, I was waking up, like, just eating, like, anything just to feel better. And then I really had to say, do I want to just feel better, or do I want to heal? I was drinking pop all the time, never drank water. Now I only drink water. It's like, I have to remind myself that, like, growth means being comfortable, being uncomfortable. It's okay whenever we're uncomfortable. We just have to get through it. I mean, like, and I do thank you, you know, like for seeing that part, that just that genuine to need to help others. And because I think that that's pretty much how we all are. Like, we all just want to get to a place and then be able to help others. And I think, and now that I am just at a place that could, you know, benefit other people, and, you know, I don't see myself as such a burden. I mean, and I think that that's where I lived in that space for so long. Like, I don't want to burden them. I don't want to bother them, but really I was just keeping myself trapped in my own world.
Well, I'm so glad that you're not trapped anymore. I'm so glad that we were able to connect and learn a little bit more about your story. You know, this small town girl from Kentucky who lived a life that was kind of hidden, kind of isolated, and now your story is resonating with thousands of people and hopefully helping change their lives as well. I want you right now, Kendra, to picture these thousands of people listening to your story. Okay. And they're moved by you as an individual. They're feeling empathy and sympathy and compassion and pride and all of these things for you as an individual. But knowing that you're probably not going to be able to have one-on-one connections with all of them. They're not all going to send you thank you notes, but this is your opportunity to speak something to them. Before you walk off the stage of their life, before you drop that mic and walk off, what is the thing that you want them to pick up on from your story, your life, your journey, more than anything else?
It's more just feeling is healing. I know, like, I remember in a book about grief, it had said we can't heal anything that we can't feel. So if you really start to look into your life or look at anything, you will start to notice that how much stuff you're just covering up just to avoid feeling bad. But it's in those bad moments, like it's in that silence that no one likes. I used to cover it up. I hated it. That silence is where it's at. Just sit there. I mean, if it's just 15 minutes a day that you sit there in that silence and sit there in that uncomfortableness, eventually that uncomfortableness will become peace. But it just takes time.
Tell you, I did not want to hear that, but I needed to hear that. So
it's in the silence. It's in the silence.
Yeah, the feelings are where the healing is, and the silence is where the power is. Oh, that's good. Yep. That's good. I'm gonna have to resonate on that one today. That's good. So, Kenra, again, thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
In the show notes, I'll have your bio and all the information. But for those people that, like me, sometimes I'm just lazy and I don't go look at show notes and don't start clicking the links. Is there a direct way, an easy way that people can learn more about you or connect with you?
Yes, on my website, www.calmingchaos.support. You can reach out to me anytime there.
calmingchaos.support. Love it. Love it. Well, thank you again, listeners. Go check out her story. Share this episode with friends, colleagues, peers, family. Allow you to feel this and then allow your feelings to help heal others. So thanks again, Kenra. Have an amazing day, everybody, and continue to learn.
Thank you.